Hello everyone, welcome back to Into Sports. I'm your host Evan, and today I'm going to go over my full NFL predictions. That's every team's record, my playoff teams, my Final Four teams, and ultimately my Super Bowl II teams and my champion. Before we start, if you haven't subscribed, please do that. But first division, the AFC North. Last year the Baltimore Ravens won it. I predict them to win it again with an 11-5 record. This is one where I was wrong. I said Lamar Jackson wouldn't be good last year. Oh, he wasn't good. He was great. I said that this team couldn't reinvent offense. They kind of did with that run game, that pistol formation, read option. Now I do project slight regression offensively for this Ravens team. I know that every defensive coordinator, every head coach is watching film on the Ravens as we speak, trying to figure out how they did what they did and how they can stop it, and also potentially how they can use it and emulate it in their own offense. Now this defense is absolutely phenomenal. Great secondary, Marcus Peters, Marlon Humphrey, great corner tandem. I don't worry about the loss of Earl Thomas, their safety. Doesn't bother me that much. I think it was a good move to release him. If he doesn't fit in your locker room, then there's no point of having him. He's not even a top 10 safety, probably at this point in his career. Ravens, love him. Lamar Jackson, top 5 quarterback. I was wrong there. It's Pittsburgh Steelers, second in the division. Big time bounce back year for the Steelers. You get Big Ben off the injury again. He missed all but 2 games of last year with a elbow injury. He actually had ligaments torn off the bone in his elbow, so that's concerning. I wonder how he's going to bounce back. If he bounces back the way I expect him to, he should be a fringe top 10 quarterback. Now, even if he's not a fringe top 10 quarterback, he's going to be a massive upgrade over Devlin, aka Duck Hodges, and Mason Rudolph. Those guys were probably the 40th or 50th best quarterbacks in the league last year. They were absolutely terrible in every way. But the team won 8 games. I credit the defense, and I credit Mike Tomlin in one of his best coaching seasons, in my estimation. That defense is great. A front 7, get after the quarterback, turn the ball over a lot of sacks, a lot of fumbles. I expect them to be very good once again. And then the weapons for Big Ben Roethlisberger. Juju Smith-Schuster, a rookie Chase Claypool, who could have an important role in the offense, and a good offensive line. Big time year for Pittsburgh, like him a lot. 8-8, Cleveland Browns. Freddie Kitchens, their coach last year, he's no longer there. Kevin Stefanski, they bring in from Minnesota, and he kind of reminds me a little bit of Kitchens in a way that they only called plays for about a season. He's kind of younger guy, offensive minded. I wonder how he's going to handle these personalities of Odell Beckham Jr. and Baker Mayfield. But let's be honest, he can't be any worse than Freddie Kitchens. Even if he's not very good, it's still an upgrade. I expect a bounce back year from Baker Mayfield. I don't think it was as bad as we all thought. Just from the media, the perception of the play. I watched the film. It wasn't all that bad. He's going to have a much better offensive line. He was scared because after about a second of holding the football in the pocket, he just ran away, no matter what. He was seeing ghosts on the defensive line. And this defense is going to be pretty good. Myles Garrett back off a, what do I call that, a helmet issue? Yeah, where he bonked Mason Rudolph right in the head. I expected a solid year from Cleveland. The roster's very good, but I'm going to wait and see on this one. A lot of personality in that locker room. And then, bottom of the division, Cincinnati Bengals. I like Joe Burrow a lot. I only think they win 4 games, though, because the defense is blah. And Zach Taylor, their head coach, can he coach? I don't really know. There's some decent offensive pieces, receiving core. Joe Mixon is a stud at running back. There's not much for Joe Burrow to work with. Next division, AFC East. I'm going to pick the Buffalo Bills to win this one with a 9-7 record. They made the playoffs last year as a wild card. I think without Tom Brady in this division, this is the year that they actually win it. I like Josh Allen a lot. I think he's the 16th best quarterback. But if the Bills want to be a 10, 11, 12 win team, I think Josh Allen is going to have to be a much more accurate downfield passer. He has a big arm, but he can't hit anything down the field. Now I think the addition of Stephon Diggs in a trade from Minnesota, I think that helps out quite a bit. But Stephon Diggs can be open down the field. If Josh Allen can't hit him, then there's really no point. And then this defense. I expect it to be a top 5 caliber defense. Once again, led by Coach Sean McDermott. Great secondary, solid front 7, very good defense. Bills in the playoffs. And then second in this division, New England Patriots. I think Cam Newton is a small downgrade from Tom Brady. Not a huge one. We'll see how Cam Newton bounces back after an injury-plagued year where he only played 2 games. It's remarkable to me how Cam Newton is already fitting in, answering questions like a guy that has been in that Patriots locker room for 10 years. He's fitting into the Patriots way with Bill Belichick. And then opt-outs. We have to talk about this. They had about 8 opt-outs. I don't know why, but that's a lot of opt-outs. Some valuable players too. So that kind of hurts them quite a bit. 8 opt-outs from coronavirus? That's a lot. I expect some defensive regression. This team kind of feasted on bad quarterbacks first 8 weeks when they were on a historic pace. And they lost some guys. Linebackers are key to Belichick's defense. Kyle Van Noy, Jamie Collins lost in free agency. So I expect that to hurt Belichick's defense a little bit. And this team's not tanking. Otherwise, they wouldn't have brought in Cam Newton. So they're not tanking. Let's make that very clear. Dolphins, 7-9. This is going to be an interesting dynamic between Ryan Fitzpatrick and Tua. I expect Tua to come in probably week 5, week 6, maybe a little bit sooner. Because if you draft a guy in the top 5, you're playing him year 1 at quarterback. Brian Flores, their head coach, love him. He was great down the stretch, and he brings in a lot of key pieces on defense. Corners, linebackers. They revamped this defense in free agency and in the draft. I expect it to go from worst to about a top 10 caliber type defense. And then bottom of the division, 6-10. New York Jets, disastrous offseason. Adam Gase is terrible. I mean, can we acknowledge that this guy tried to trade a draft pick for a running back that averaged 1.8 yards per carry on 75 carries last year? He actually wanted to give up draft capital to get that guy in his building. I've been telling you guys, Gase is not a good head coach at all. Now, this defense was actually 5th in DVOA last year, but they had Jamal Adams then. They lose CJ Mosley again due to injury. The reason I'm giving them 6 wins is because I love Sam Darnold. I think he elevates bad weapons they have. Sam Darnold's worth a few wins on his own. AFC South, I have the Titans winning this division 9-7. Great breakout season from Ryan Tannehill at the end of last year. I expect him to be very good this season. Probably not as good as he was down the stretch. That was a career outlier. And then also Derrick Henry. He rushed for so many yards last year. I don't expect him to be that good, but I expect him to run for 1,400 yards. Colts, 8-8 last year. I don't think they are 8-8 this year is my projection. I don't think they make the playoffs. I love them last year. I had them as a Super Bowl pick until Andrew Luck retired. Phillip Rivers, I think he's about the 25th best quarterback in the league. I think he still has some stuff left. I don't think he's washed, but can't move. A lot of interceptions, a lot of turnover-worthy plays, and then the secondary is really bad. That's my main concern. They had a number 1 corner in Pierre Desir, but then they cut him. And they got in Xavier Rhodes in free agency from Minnesota, and you expect him to help your cornerback room? No, he's only going to hurt their cornerback room. Xavier Rhodes cannot play at this point in his career. And then the offensive line is very strong to protect an unmobile Phillip Rivers and some decent weapons. T.Y. Hilton, Jonathan Taylor, if they give him the load, he could lead the league in rushing. Houston Texans, 8-8. This is Deshaun Watson's team. That's the only reason they have 8 wins. They traded DeAndre Hopkins in the offseason, and actually, I don't think that's going to hurt them too much. Because if you look at Deshaun Watson's stats throwing to Hopkins last year versus throwing to other receivers, there was almost no difference. He might have actually been better throwing to other receivers. Because Deshaun Watson's a guy that likes to throw the ball down the field with touch, with accuracy. I think he's the best in the league at that. And now he has Will Fuller and Brandon Cooks, 2 speed guys. He could light the world on fire with his speed receivers. But this defense is not very good at all. 8 wins just because of Deshaun Watson. And then 3-13, potentially worst team in the league, Jacksonville Jaguars. Minshew, their quarterback, he can play. He's not great. He's okay. But the defense is so bad. They cut Leonard Fournette. They traded Calais Campbell. They traded A.J. Boye. I call this a mini tank. It's not a full-on tank. I don't think anyone is full-on tanking in the NFL, but mini tank, we'll call it that. AFC West, Kansas City Chiefs, defending Super Bowl champions, 12-4, making the playoffs. Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Sammy Watkins, Travis Kelce, Andy Reid. Enough said. This offensive core, this offensive weapons with Mahomes, it's just phenomenal in every way. And also an improved defense down the stretch last year. That's the main reason why they won the Super Bowl. Also a big year from rookie running back Clyde Edwards-Helaire. 10-6. This is my pop team here. I'm all in on the Denver Broncos making the playoffs. Last year my squad was the San Francisco 49ers. And them going 10-6 after going 3-13 and having the number 2 pick in the draft the year before. I'm telling you, Denver, they're going to light the world on fire. They're going to shock some people. Not me, because I'm expecting it. Drew Lock is the main question mark for this team. But when you have Courtland Sutton, an established number 1 receiver, KJ Hamler, a big-time speed threat, Melvin Gordon, Phillip Lindsay as your running back core, decent offensive line, good play caller, Pat Shurmur, and then that defense, it's going to be hard for him not to succeed. And actually, I think he has nuclear upside. But even if he doesn't reach that upside in year 2, I still think this is at least a 7-win team, 8-win team. If he plays decent, and if he plays any kind of good, it's a 9 or 10-win team. They're 4-1 down the stretch with Drew Lock as their starter last 5 games. And the defensive additions, you had Jarrell Casey, defensive tackle, for free, essentially, from the Titans. A.J. Boye, good corner. Very cheap from the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is a phenomenal team. Love me some Denver Broncos in 2020. 7-9, LA Chargers. This quarterback situation is the reason they're down to 7 wins. Because I think this is the best defense in the league. You heard me right. But offensively, Justin Herbert, Tyrod Taylor, those guys are not starters in my eyes. I think Taylor is going to play probably the first 8 games. I think Anthony Lynn is a little bit on the hot seat, not too much, so he might ride with the veteran and Taylor a little bit longer. Also, I think Taylor's a bit better right now. 6-10 Oakland Raiders. I like Derek Carr, but the defense, I don't like. There's some solid weapons, but not great. And this team, I think they were 7-9 last year. But even that, they were outgained heavily by their opponents. Don't love the Oakland Raiders this upcoming year, although Carr is a decent quarterback. 9-7 NFC, Green Bay Packers. 13-3 last year, but they were not a real tried and true 13-win team. They had the stats of a 9 or 10-win team, but we know Aaron Rodgers is a bad man. There's some solid weapons too. Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones, but after that, that's when it falls off a cliff. Your number 2 receiver is Allen Lazard? That's a problem. I like Lazard, but most of you have not heard of him. So that's an issue. They took Jordan Love in the draft, which is a pick I love actually. Going down the road, in 3 years, potentially be your starter if Rodgers is done. Right now, could be your backup, but it's not going to help them win this year. 8-8, Minnesota Vikings, a 10-win team last year. Don't love this team that much. Now they just traded for Yannick Ngakoue, a pass rusher from Jacksonville. I had this team 3rd in the division, and then I flipped them after this trade. Didn't change their record though. They traded away Stephon Diggs as well to Buffalo. I think that hurts them. They also lost their top 3 corners. It's kind of like a Colts situation. Who are you going to use to stop number 1 receivers? Michael Thomas, Julio Jones, DeAndre Hopkins, Devontae Adams in the division when you play those guys. Because they lost their top 3 corners from last year on a secondary that already wasn't very good. Also, Kirk Cousins, I think he's about the 12th best quarterback in the league. He's pretty good. 3rd in the division, I'm going Detroit Lions. Like this team quite a bit. 8-8 record. Love Matt Stafford. First 8 games last year, he was absolutely phenomenal, throwing the ball down the field. And they were better than their 3-4-1 record first 8 games last year. But then Stafford got injured. David Blau and Jeff Driscoll couldn't win another game. And they were a terrible team. This is a make or break year for their head coach, Matt Patricia. I don't like him that much because he runs that Belichick type of culture. That's what he wants to implement in Detroit. But you have to have victories to support that system. Otherwise, guys aren't going to buy in. Because you're asking to, it's a very rigorous type culture. So you're asking them to buy in when you only won 3 games last year? That's going to be difficult to make veterans buy into that. Kerryon Johnson, a superstar running back. Love him. He's better than the guy they drafted in the second round, DeAndre Swift. I expect a bounce back year after injury for one of the best running backs in the league, one of my favorite players. 7-9, Chicago Bears. I told you this team would heavily regress last year. They were a 13-win team. I told you they'd only win 7, and they won 8. Foles, Trubisky, similar to Chargers situation. None of these guys are starters in my eyes. And let's talk about their coach, because people are going to criticize Matt Nagy after last year. Because in coaching, there's a fine line between creative and gimmicky. And last year, most people would say Matt Nagy was kind of gimmicky. But in his defense, he had Trubisky, who couldn't stand on the beach and throw the ball into the ocean. So you have to scheme up some gimmicky plays. You have to use some creative formations and motions, and sometimes it's going to look a little cute, but you have to manufacture easy completions if you're going to have a terrible quarterback. And that's what Matt Nagy tried to do. This defense is pretty good, but it's not as good as the year that they won 13 games 2 years ago. 7-9 for the Chicago Bears. Then we go to the NFC East. Philadelphia Eagles. A lot of injuries last year. And a lot of injuries already in training camp. Wentz, a little injury. He shouldn't miss time. The rookie receiver, Jalen Reagor. 2 offensive linemen. This team has the injury bug, and I'm a little bit scared of it. Now, the thing I love about this team is last year, they didn't have a lot of speed on the receiving core. Week 1, Deshaun Jackson, a speed guy, take the top off the defense, had 2 touchdowns. Then they had nobody else that could run by the defense once he was out for the season. So I expect a better year from Wentz, throwing the ball down the field to speed. A thing I love about this team is they retooled their defense. They traded for Darius Slay, a corner, which was a need, and they got defensive tackle Javon Hargrave from Pittsburgh. This is a really strong defensive line. Reminds me of when they won the Super Bowl, how they could rotate guys in. It was a great front 7. Looks pretty similar to me this year. And this is the only team in the NFC East returning their same head coach. So that's a big advantage in a year where we had a global pandemic and limited offseason. So big advantage having Doug Peterson back. Philadelphia 10-6. Cowboys at 9-7. Last year they were 8-8, but they were much better than that record. They had the stats of about a 12-4 team. All the analytics guys love this team this year. I don't as much, because I think you downgrade at center, losing star Travis Frederick. You downgrade at corner, losing star Byron Jones. And so I worry about this defense a little bit, not having a number 1 corner. And it wasn't a great defense last year, but they have a lot of weapons offensively. Dak Prescott throwing to Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, handing the ball off to Zeke Elliott behind a great offensive line. A lot of weapons in that offense. And Mike McCarthy is better than Jason Garrett. But in a limited offseason, new coach, that's a little bit of a red flag for me. Washington football team. 3rd in the division. New name. 6-10. Love Ron Rivera. Hope he has a full and safe recovery. Also like Dwayne Haskins. Now, Dwayne Haskins wasn't that high in my quarterback rankings, but I still think he has quite a bit of upside and ability. Expect a better year from him. Played a lot better down the stretch last year. And this front 7 reminds me a little bit of San Francisco's front 7 last year. You have number 2 pick Chase Young. You have a ton of first rounders. Some guys from Alabama. So this could be an underrated, scary defense. Terry McLaurin is a superstar receiver already. 8th best receiver in my opinion. 9th best in my receiver rankings. He's a star. Absolute star. I expect him to he has top 5 upside. I wouldn't be surprised after this year we were saying he was the 3rd best receiver in the league. That's how good he is. 4th in division, New York Giants, 4-12. New coach, Joe Judge. Daniel Jones, turnover prone. Doesn't feel pressure. A lot of fumbles, a lot of sacks. But he makes some nice throws. This defense isn't very good. But there's some sneaky good offensive weapons. Saquon Barkley, Sterling Shepard, Golden Tate. Defense won't be that good. New head coach. Don't love the Giants this year. NFC South, New Orleans Saints 11-5 playoffs. Drew Brees. We'll see if he potentially falls off a cliff at age 41. I don't think he will, because he's not asked to throw the ball down the field as much as a guy like Brady, who we'll talk about in a minute. There's some great weapons here. Kamara, Michael Thomas, Jared Cook. You add Emmanuel Sanders, which I think is a big addition. And still a very good defense. 11-5 Saints. 10-6 Tampa Bay. Tom Brady coming in this offseason. There's some great weapons for him. I've said Brady is like the 20th best quarterback. But his weapons and his system are going to make him look really, really good. I question with that Bruce Arians scheme. Got to hold on to the ball a long time. Longer developing routes down the field. Is he going to be able to buy time by moving in the pocket? Because really, he can't move. And also, his arm strength deteriorated towards the end of the year. Is he going to be able to throw the ball down the field like Bruce Arians is going to ask him to in January, in December, late in the season? Also, this was pretty good defense last year. 10th, according to DVOA. Falcons, 7-9. Every year, there's injuries. They disappoint in the end, but they always flash a glimmer of hope in the middle of the season. Started terribly, finished strong. I feel like they're 7-9 every year. 4th place, Carolina Panthers, 6-10. I like Teddy Bridgewater a little bit. But I think of the weapons around him, he's going to have a pretty solid season with DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, Robbie Anderson, some speed down the field. Matt Rule, new coach from Baylor. But this defense is so bad. There's a reason they spent all of their draft picks on defense, none on offense. They had to address the defense. Final division, NFC West. San Francisco 49ers, 10-6. I told you they were going to be a really good team last year, and they were. I told you Kyle Shanahan was an elite offensive mind and a great head coach. He showed that. But I look a little bit at a Rams comparison. A team that went to the Super Bowl, lost it. They have a quarterback somewhere between 15 and 20. They have a young, smart, offensive-minded head coach. So I could see some regression here. I'm going 10-6 after they were 13-3. Still like San Fran, but we could see a little bit of a step back. Because also, cluster injuries to this receiving core. Garoppolo is really going to rely on tight end George Kittle. 9-7, Seattle Seahawks. Playoffs. Home of Mr. Unlimited, Russell Wilson.
I think I have an alter ego. His name's Mr. Unlimited.
But if he was actually unlimited, this team would be so much better. Because I am sick and tired of watching the Seattle Seahawks and Pete Carroll and Brian Schottenheimer have the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, Russell Wilson, maybe the best quarterback in the NFL, Russell Wilson, and tell him to turn around and hand the ball to Chris Carson on first down, on second down, on third down. You have the best quarterback. Throw the ball. Make him Mr. Unlimited. If the Seahawks want to win, they could easily win 11 games, 12 games, if they let Russell Wilson off the leash. And then this defense will be better with Jamal Adams, get him a safety from the Jets, and Quentin Dunbar, sneaky corner from Washington, sneaky good. 8-8, LA Rams, 3rd place in division. Super Bowl a few years ago, they went to it. Jared Goff, 27th best quarterback in my eyes, not very good. Sean McVay, I still like him, but what's their identity on offense? Because I don't know if they have one. Are they going to be 3 wide receiver, grip it and rip it all over the field? Are they going to use rookie running back Cam Akers and establish the run heavily? We'll see. 7-9, Arizona Cardinals. Kyler Murray has just complete nuclear upside. Kenyon Drake, the running back for them, I think this guy is a dark horse to lead the NFL in scrimmage yards. So if you're playing fantasy football, pick this guy up. DeAndre Hopkins, you trade for him. He's your number one receiver. Solid receiving core now. Defensively, not enough for me to give them more than 7 wins. Here's our AFC playoff picture. Kansas City, Baltimore, Tennessee, and Buffalo. Don't love them, but there's no other great teams in their division. 5 seed, Steelers, like them quite a bit. Broncos, there we go. And Patriots. I worry a little bit about the Ravens with the postseason struggles. I'm not completely off of them in the playoffs now because I've seen enough good passing from Lamar Jackson. A lot of big time throws, but I need a little bit more down-to-down accuracy from the Ravens quarterback. NFC, here we go. Saints, 49ers, Eagles, Packers, same 4 as last year, different order. Tom Brady's Bucks at 5. Seattle, 6. Cowboys bounce back to 7, get in the playoffs. 1-5, we see New Orleans, Tampa. We'll see if these old 40-year-old plus quarterbacks, if they deteriorate towards the end of the season, or if they can have a good playoff run, because I noticed they declined towards the end of the season last year. And into sports, you click on the video, you're going to see some surprises, some upsets. So we're going to the Final Four. We're going KC Chiefs, that's pretty obvious, and Denver Broncos. Told you, I believe in them a lot. I believed in the 49ers last year. I didn't take them to go this far, but I'm not holding back this time. And then Saints and Eagles in the NFC. Saints, I kind of didn't want to put them in here, but there's no other teams I really loved. Regression from San Fran, Green Bay. So we'll go Saints and Eagles as the Final Four. And then our Super Bowl pick, we're going upsets, baby. Denver Broncos, Philadelphia Eagles with the Eagles as your champion. I worry about the injuries for the Eagles, but ultimately, I'm not holding back with the Denver Broncos either. I see that upside. I'm chasing it. I think Denver is primed for a great out-of-nowhere type year. I love these two teams, playmaking quarterbacks with Wentz and Locke. A lot of speed down the field. I think that opens up the offense quite a bit. Very good defensively. Both teams added a defensive tackle and a corner, value corner, in the trades. So once you see these two teams in the Super Bowl come February, you'll know I'm actually a time traveler.